Hi everybody, this is a review video for the third graders EBS CSAT material. Today we're going to talk about chapter 3 of our material. Before we dive into solving the problem set in chapter 3, I want to talk about the figurative language, concept of figurative language first, because the questions that you are asked in chapter 3 is deal with the concept of figurative language. So I first want to talk about the concept about the figurative language first. Then we will dive into chapter 3 question. So this is some of the material that we're going to cover with the figurative language. First, we're going to talk about the meaning of figurative language. And figurative language has several different types. So we have 6 different types in figurative language. We have simile, metaphor, hyperbole, personification, synecdoche, onomatopoeia. We'll take a look at concept of each technique in turn. Okay? So first off, the meaning of the figurative language. What is a figurative language? Figurative language refers to the use of word. So as you guys know, the figurative language also is the use of word, use of language. Okay? Difference is it deviates from the conventional order and the meaning. However, the figurative language deviates from the conventional order. Deviates means differ. The way we use language with a figurative language is quite different from conventional order. Conventional meaning tradition. So figurative language used words, vocabulary quite differently, different order and different meaning. Why? Why figurative language is being used? Because in order to convey complicated meaning, sometimes figurative language deliver more complicated meaning more effectively to the listeners. Sometimes it delivers difficult meaning to the readers or the audiences more easily. At other times, figurative language can be more colorful writing. When you want to make your writing more beautiful, when you want to make your writing more effective, you can use figurative language. And other times, if you want to deliver your message more clearly, with more clarity, you can use figurative language. Figurative language works more efficiently to deliver your message clearly sometimes. Or evocative comparison. When you want to help people remember information more easily, when you want to evocate information, you can use figurative language. So it uses an ordinary sentence to refer to something without directly stating. So in summary, figurative language is making a comparison between two items. Okay? So we'll take a look at examples of different types of figurative language. First, we have a simile. Simile is a figure of speech that compares two unlike things and uses the word like or as, and they are commonly used in everyday conversation. So simile is making a comparison between two things. Okay? And when you make a simile, when you use a technique of simile, you use phrases. You use phrase like or phrase like as. So, for instance, the example of simile is that the assistant was as busy as a bee when she was preparing the podium for the presidential address. So here we are comparing the address, and we're comparing the assistant with a bee. We're saying the assistant is as busy as bee. So this is a technique of similar. And other example is the boy is as brave as a lion in the jungle. So when you say this sentence, we are comparing the boy with a lion. The boy is as brave as a lion. So this is a kind of simile, making comparison. Okay? And moving on to the metaphor. Another example of figurative language is metaphor. Metaphor is a statement compares two things that are not alike. So metaphor also compares two very different things. Okay? And when we make a simile, when we compare these two different things, we use phrase like or as with a simile. But in a metaphor, when you make a comparison with metaphor, you don't use phrase like or as in metaphor. Instead, you just use direct comparison. For instance, you can say time is money. Okay? Time is money. This is a metaphor. Direct comparison. Love is a battlefield. This is a metaphor. Baby, you are my sunshine. You are my sunshine. This is a metaphor. Okay? Making direct comparison. Okay? And next type is a hyperbole. Hyperbole is an exaggeration that's created to emphasize a point, bring out a sense of humor. It's oftentimes used in everyday conversation without a speaker noticing it. Exaggeration is so outrageous, no one would believe it is true, but it's used to add depth and color to statement. So as you guys know, hyperbole is an exaggeration. You are making exaggeration. Sometimes you're making exaggeration in order to make a humor, or you when you want to emphasize the meaning, want to make a humor, you use hyperbole. Okay? So the example of hyperbole is when we say, I have told you a million times to wash the dishes. Told you a million times. In fact, I only told you a couple of times, but I'm still saying I told you a million times. Exaggeration. Use of hyperbole. Okay? And another example is, you are so slender. You are so skinny that the wind can carry you away. So this is exaggerating, that you are really slender, you're really skinny, even the wind can carry you away. So this is a technique of hyperbole. Okay? Next up is personification. Personification is attribution of human characteristics to non-living object. So you make non-living object act like a human. You make non-living object speak like a woman. Human is a technique of personification. Okay? So using personifications affect the way readers imagine things and sparks an interest in the subject. So if we use personification, we can make readers imagine something. Okay? If we can cause some spark, we can cause some fun from the readers about this subject by using personification. And you guys already know well about the personification because during your Korean class, we talk about the personification skills, right? So for instance, the example of personification is, April is the cruelest month of the year. Thus, this sentence is a personification because adjective cruel. The cruel is mainly used when we describe the characteristics of a human. Okay? Cruel is usually characteristics of a human. So we usually say the boy is cruel, the girl is cruel. We don't say April is the cruelest month normally. But here you are using a personification, making April act like a human. Okay? April is really cruelest month. Okay? Another example, the car brakes scream all through the journey. So when we say scream, usually it's human. Boys and girls will scream, and people scream. We don't say the car brake. Car brake is nothing but a piece of metal. Okay? This is nothing but a device. Car brake cannot actually scream. But still, here you are using this technique of personification. Okay? And moving on. Next up is a Synecdoche. Out of all these techniques in the figurative language, among simile, metaphor, hyperbole, and personification, actually those techniques rarely used in CSAT material. Okay? So it is the Synecdoche, which is the most times used in the CSAT passage. Okay? So it's important to understand the use of Synecdoche. Synecdoche is a type of figurative language that uses one part to refer to the whole, or the whole to refer to a part. So when you want to say something about, when you want to talk about a something, you can referring that something by using a small part, or vice versa. When you only want to mention small part of item, you can refer to that item by referring to the whole thing. So for example, let's say that you want to say a vehicle. You want to refer to a vehicle. Instead of you say, oh, there is a vehicle, there is a car, there is a bus on the street, you can say, oh, there is a set of wheels. So wheels and vehicle could mean same thing under the technique of Synecdoche. The wheel can represent entire vehicle, entire car, or entire bus. So you can use just one part, wheel, to represent entire vehicle. Another example is a businessman. So instead of saying, oh, I saw one businessman, you can say, I saw one suit. Because businessmen always wear suits all the time. So this suit can represent entire businessman. Okay? So other example is like when your dad says, hey, I need to bring some more bread to my family. When your dad mentions bread, he is not just meaning the bread as a food. He is mentioning the bread as a money. I need to bring more money for my family members. Okay? Bread can represent money. Or head. Another example is head. When you want to talk about the number of cattle, animals like cow or horse or sheep, when you want to talk about the cattle, or when you want to talk about the people, the number of people, instead of saying, I'm counting the number of people, I'm counting the number of cow, you can say, I'm counting the number of head. Okay? Head can represent the cow, or head can represent the people. So this is a technique of Synecdoche. Little part representing the whole, or the whole representing little part. Synecdoche. Most used in CSAT passage. Okay? Last but not least, we have onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a language that names something or an action by imitating the sound associated with it. So onomatopoeia is a technique that you're using vocabulary that imitates the sound. For instance, example of onomatopoeia is the fireplace heater hissed and cracked. So the word hiss and crack is imitating the sound. Okay? So onomatopoeia. Alarm clock, buzz. At the time I was going to bathroom. So buzz is imitating the sound of alarm clock. So using the verb buzz is a technique of onomatopoeia. But in fact, onomatopoeia is rarely used in CSAT passage. However, it will be helpful if you know the concept of onomatopoeia. So, like I said, Synecdoche is a technique most often times used in CSAT material. Okay? So let's check out actual question, chapter 3, using a Synecdoche. Okay? So the gateway passage is asking us to find out the meaning, the sentence, the role of the lion's historians. We're supposed to find the meaning of this sentence. Okay? The role of lion's historians. And here, lion, also example of Synecdoche. Okay, so while we try to solve the question, let's try to find what the lion represents in this passage. Okay, so there is an African proverb saying that until the lions have their historians, tales of hunting will always glorify the hunter. So in Africa, there is famous old saying, there is famous proverb. It says, until the lions have their historians, tales of hunting will always glorify the hunter. As you guys know already, lions, they don't have their historians. Lions are animal, cannot talk, cannot say. So, of course, lions, they don't have any group of people, any group of historian who can speak on behalf of themselves. So until lions have their historians, tales of hunting will always glorify the hunter. So since the lions, they don't have any group of people who can say on behalf of themselves, the tales of hunting always glorify. Tales of hunting will always look good, the human side. Always look good, the hunter's side. Because hunters, we humans, we have our historian. Hunters talk about our history on behalf of us, not on behalf of lion. So they will describe every single successful hunting from perspective of people. So this story, the tale of hunting, will always be described in terms of human perspectives. So this bird right here, this famous African bird, this proverb is about power. So this bird is talking about how power works in human society, or how power works in our world, and who controls the world, and who control the law making in our environment. So this proverb is talking about the power, control, and law making situation in our world. So environmental journalists have to play the role of the lions in history, lions historians. So therefore, in this case, it is an environmental journalist who has to speak on behalf of the lions. The environmental journalists have to play a role of lions historians. So maybe the lions historians represent like environmental journalists, right? So they have to speak on behalf of the lions. So they have to put across the point of view of the environment, people who make the law. So they here, I told you that they refer to this environmental journalist, right? So environmental journalists have to put across the message. They have to put across the point of view. The point of view of the environment. They have to speak on behalf of the environment to the people who make the law. Okay? So here, the point of view is represented by the lions. Okay? So lion is representing the point of view of the environment, and also this point of view of the environment is the topic of our passage. So they have to be the voice of wild India. So again, they refer to environmental journalists. Journalists have to speak on behalf of the wild India. The present rate of human consumption is completely unsustainable. So the speed of which humans are consuming our nature, the speed of which humans are consuming our environment is completely unsustainable. It's too quick, too fast. We are consuming our nature too quickly. So we cannot possibly sustain our consumption forever. In near future, our nature, our environment will be depleted. Our nature will be disappear. Our nature will disappear. Okay? The reason is because forest, wetland, and wasteland, coastal zones, and eco-sensitive zones, all these are examples. All these areas are example of actual environment. And humans, humans are seeing all this environment as a disposable item. Okay? Disposable means usable item. We believe all these forests, wetland, wasteland, coastal zones, and eco-sensitive can be used by human. We believe that it is totally okay. It's perfectly okay that we use all this nature environment for our sake. And we consider that as a disposable item for humans, for accelerating demand of human populations, because we have really huge number of human population in the world, and we have a growing number of demand for everything. We have a growing number of demand for everything, so we can use all this environment to satisfy human demand. But to ask for any change in human behavior, whether it to be a cut down on consumption, alter lifestyle, or decrease population growth, is seen as a violation of human rights. So if someone think that we are doing too much, to the environment. So if someone asks us, if somebody asks us to change our behavior, hey, this is a wrong way of using environment. Let's change our behavior. If somebody asks us to change, whether the change maybe the cut down on consumption, maybe that person can suggest, hey, let's cut down some consumptions. Or that person may ask, hey, let's alter our style to more nature-friendly way, eco-friendly way. Alter is changed. When the other person suggests, hey, let's change our lifestyle into more eco-friendly way, or if a person asks us to, hey, let's decrease a population growth in our world. And that kind of asking, that kind of suggestion could be seen as a violation of human rights. So if you ask other people to do such a thing as it is, if we ask people to do or change to do this, people will consider it as a violation of human rights. Because many people believe that we have a totally legitimate human right to use all this nature, to use all this environment. We are the owner. Humans are the owner of the world. We are the owner of the earth. So we have every single legitimate human right to use all this nature for our use. Okay? And if you ask us to change, if you ask us not to use this environment anymore, you are violating our legitimate human right. Okay? No, but at some point, human right become wrong. Okay? So, no, yes, it is okay for human to use environment and nature to some degree, but if we do it excessively, at some point, we humans or our human right, it becomes wrong to nature, become wrong to the environment. Okay? So it's time we change our thinking so that there is no difference between the right of human and the right of the rest of the environment. So now it is time. If we keep doing this, our earth will disappear soon. So it is time we change our thinking. So we have to consider there is no difference between the right of a human and the right of the rest of the environment. So it is urging to shift. It is urging us to change to sustainable human rights behavior. So lion is representing the environment. Okay? Historian representing the environmental journalist. Okay? So topic is the point of view of the environment, and topic sentence here is, I guess, last one. So topic sentence, of course, contain the topic itself. So here, topic sentence contained the topic, right? The right of the rest of the environment, and it talks more specifically about there is no difference between the human right and the right of the rest of the environment. This is the topic sentence. Okay? And moving on to next sentence. And again here, we're supposed to find out the meaning of hold their card too close to the vest. Okay? So here it says, we're often told that there is no innovation without competition, which is absurd given that most of the greatest innovations in science technology have resulted from the sharing of research across academic silos, national borders, and language barriers. So we're oftentimes told, many people say that there will be no innovation without competition. In other words, we can only have a innovation when we have a competition. Many people say we need to have a competition in order to make innovation, which is absurd. However, many people say this, but our writer believes that this opinion, no innovation without competition, is quite absurd. It's quite strange. The reason is because, given that most of the greatest innovation in science and technology have resulted from the sharing of research across academic silos. Because, all the greatest innovation in the science and technology area, all the greatest innovation It resulted from, it came from. All the great innovation in science technology came from sharing, not from the competition. It came from sharing across academic silos. Academic silo is different academic field, right? And this all greatest innovation in science came from sharing national borders. Innovation came from sharing the language barriers, not the competition. Okay? So in truth, no great innovation occur in isolations. So our writer is arguing, actually no great innovation occur in isolation. Okay? If you compete against each other, if you isolate each other, there will be no great innovation. Personally, I have been asked to sign an awfully large number of non-disclosure agreements from other researchers, terrified that their ideas will get out. So many times before, I was asked to sign non-disclosure agreement. Non-disclosure agreement is a promise that I'm not going to tell the knowledge, I'm not going to tell the research result out of the company. I'm not going to tell my knowledge out of company, or I'm not going to tell my knowledge to other people but you. So many other researchers, when they work together with me, they ask me to sign this non-disclosure agreement because they are terrified that their ideas will get out. But as a matter of fact, but in truth, I found this approach counterproductive. So this isolation and this competition, according to our writer, is very counterproductive. It's not very productive. Those who hold their cards too close to the vest are rarely the one who playing the winning hand. So when we play the card, there are some people who hold their card too close to the vest. Maybe we are talking about these people who refuse to share their ideas with others. When we play card, we can see many people refusing to share their ideas, refusing to show their card to others. And rarely these people rarely playing a winning hand. They don't really win the game if they don't want to share the information. Okay? So it is when we share our finding with people with other area of expertise, or seek feedback about concepts from someone else, or try our idea with pleasures, that suddenly the real potential start to emerge. So this is a emphasis style sentence. So it is only when that, right? This is an emphasis technique, right? So only when we share our finding, suddenly the real potential start to emerge. Only when we share our finding, we will be able to have some kind of innovation. Okay? So when we share with finding, we probably have to share with people with other area, or people who seek the feedback, or people try out our idea with potential users. It's only when we share this finding with these people, we can have real potential to start to emerge. Okay? So here, holding their card, also a Synecdoche. Okay? Synecdoche, who is trying to hide the information. So here in this case, this implied sentence contains refuse to share their ideas with others. Okay? And I guess let's call it a day here, and we'll continue our lesson next time. Okay? Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Okay? Thank you. See you next time. Bye.